Hello everyone, welcome back. In this video, we will study Article 9. If there is a question calling for the classification of felonies according to their gravity, Article 9 should be your answer. According to their gravity, felonies are classified as either grave, less grave, or light. One of the important reasons why we need to learn Article 9 is in order to know whether the crimes or felonies can be complexed with one another. Under Article 48, we have complex crimes. There are two kinds of complex crimes. We have compound crime and complex crime proper. Under compound crime, the single act constitutes two or more grave or less grave felonies. In other words, the resulting felonies must be either both grave or both less grave, or one is less grave and one is grave felony. If there is a light felony, you should not complex it with the other crimes. Light felonies are treated and punished as separate offenses. Now, isa ito sa mga rason bakit kailangan nating pag-aralan ang Article 9. Before we start, I want you to look at your book or your Kodal or whatever reading material that you have right now. Tignan niyo po ang Article 9. Kapag meron pang fine not exceeding 200 pesos, you should erase that. Burahin niyo na po kasi that has already been amended by Republic Act number 10951, or an act adjusting the amount or the value of property and damage on which a penalty is based and the fines imposed under the revised penal code. This law took effect on September 16, 2017. Instead of fine not exceeding 200 pesos, it should now read fine not exceeding 40,000 pesos. Kasi under Section 1 of RA 10951, it amended Article 9. And same pa rin naman po yung content except dito. Ito na po yung pinalit. This is now the new phase of Article 9 reflecting the amendment brought about by Republic Act 10951, particularly this relevant portion, fine not exceeding 40,000 pesos. If there is a question asking for the definition of grave felonies, less grave felonies, or light felonies, you answer Article 9 kasi andyan na po yung definitions nila. If you study Article 9, you should also study its sister article, which is Article 25. You can only understand Article 9 if you read Article 25. And this is Article 25. It provides the scale of penalties. We have capital punishment, afflictive penalties, correctional penalties, and light penalties. Now, if you apply Article 9, ito ngayon ang mga grave felonies. And then less grave felonies at yung light felony. Let's start with grave felonies. Those to which the law attaches the capital punishment or penalties which in any of their periods are afflictive in accordance with Article 25 of this code. For example po, Article 248 which is murder. Makikita po natin dyan ang imposable penalty which is death. Therefore, it's a grave felony. Noong 1993 po, meron tayong Republic Act 7659 or the Death Penalty Law. It's an act imposing the death penalty on certain heinous crimes. Ito po yung mga heinous crimes. Murder, rape, kidnapping for ransom, and so on and so forth. At noong 1996 naman po, we have Republic Act 8177 or death by lethal injection. It's a law prescribing death by lethal injection for offenders convicted of heinous crimes. What is the present law dealing with death penalty? Ano nga ba ang batas natin ngayon dealing with death penalty? We have Republic Act number 9346. It prohibited the imposition of the penalty of death. Therefore, yung mga laws kanina, itong RA 8177 and RA 7659, they have already been expressly repealed by Republic Act number 9346. Paano po yung sa Book 2 of the Revised Penal Code or sa ibang mga special laws which still impose the penalty of death? We have to read Section 2 of RA 9346. The answer is in Section 2. In lieu of death penalty, the following shall be imposed. The penalty of reclusion perpetua, when the law violated makes use of the nomenclature of the penalties of the revised penal code. Meron kasi sa ibang laws, ginagamit yung prison mayor, arresto menor, reclusion perpetua. Therefore, yung law na yon, it uses the nomenclature of penalties under sa revised penal code. So kapag may nakita kayong death doon, you should replace it with reclusion perpetua. At sa letter B naman, the penalty of life imprisonment when the law violated does not make use of the nomenclature of the penalties of the revised penal code. So sa mga special laws naman, kung saan hindi nila ginagamit yung prison mayor, arresto menor, arresto mayor, reclusion perpetua, at may nakita kayo doong death, papalitan nyo lang siya ng life imprisonment. Examples of grave felonies. Number 1. A felony punishable by prisión correccional to prisión mayor. If you look at Article 25, ang prisión correccional, pasok siya sa correctional penalties. Pero, ang prisión mayor, pasok naman sa afflictive penalties. So ano nga ba talaga ang number 1? Is it a less grave felony or a grave felony? Tandaan nyo po na ang definition ng grave felony ay, in any of their periods are afflictive. So since ang maximum period nito is prisión mayor, which is pasok dito sa afflictive penalties, magiging grave felony siya. So titignan nyo lang yung pinakamataas. Kung pasok sa afflictive penalties, magiging grave felony na siya. Example number 2, a felony punishable by prisión correccional in its maximum period to prisión mayor in its minimum period. So dito naman sa number 2, may iba't ibang periods at may iba't ibang penalties. Sa number 1, there are only 2 distinct penalties. So walang problema, titignan lang natin yung pinakamataas kung pasok sa afflictive. Sa number 2 naman, same pa rin. Titignan pa rin natin kung alin ang pinakamataas at titignan natin kung pasok siya sa afflictive. Number 3 example, a felony punishable by the medium and maximum periods of prisión mayor or by prisión mayor in its maximum period to reclusion temporal in its minimum period. Kung titignan natin ang number 3, it's easy to determine if it's a grave felony kasi both of these penalties are included in the afflictive penalties. So these are all grave felonies, examples of grave felonies. Less grave felonies, those which the law punishes with penalties which in their maximum period are correctional in accordance with above-mentioned article or yung Article 25. Again, which in their maximum period are correctional. So sa mga examples naman or sa may mga given problem, titignan lang natin yung maximum period. Kapag pasok siya sa correctional, then it is a less grave felony. Examples, number 1, a felony punishable by arresto menor to destierro. Again, you just have to look at the maximum period, whether the maximum period falls under a correctional penalty. If we allude to Article 25, destierro falls under correctional penalties. In example number 1, therefore, it's a less grave felony. Number 2, a felony punishable by arresto menor in its maximum period to destierro in its minimum period. In example number 1, there are 2 distinct penalties. So it's easy to determine whether it's a less grave felony because you just have to look at the maximum period. In example number 2, there are different periods and different penalties. So again, so as not to be confused, just look at the maximum period. Destierro in its minimum period. Now, destierro falls under correctional penalties and therefore it is a less grave felony. And then we have light felonies, those infractions of law or the commission of which the penalty of arresto menor or a fine not exceeding 40,000 pesos or both is provided. Examples, number 1, a felony punishable by a fine of 40,000 pesos. If it's exactly 40,000 pesos, then it's a light felony as long as it does not exceed 40,000 pesos. Example number 2, a felony punishable by arresto menor. Since the penalty is arresto menor, it is therefore a light felony. Hindi ko alam kung itatanong ito sa inyo, pero gaya nga ng sabi nila, mas mabuti na lang yung laging handa. Let us now proceed to a confusing area in Article 9. If you read it together with other articles in the revised penal code. Now what am I talking about? Look at Article 26. We have there afflictive, correctional, and light penalty. Look at the definition of a correctional penalty with respect to fine. It does not exceed 1,200,000 pesos but is not less than 40,000 pesos. Hindi bababa ng 40,000 pesos ang fine, which is pasok ang 40,000 pesos. Kapag hindi bababa ng 40,000 pesos, it's a correctional penalty. At ang light penalty naman ay less than 40,000 pesos. Ngayon, kung titignan natin, side by side ang Article 9 at Article 26, eto, ang light felony according to Article 9, fine not exceeding 40,000 pesos. Sa Article 26 naman, ang correctional penalty, we have a fine not less than 40,000 pesos. Kung titignan ninyo, baka hindi nyo pa magets anong kaibahan nila. So ito ilalagay natin. Sa light felony under Article 9, 40K and below. Sa Article 26 naman, correctional penalty, 40K and above. Pasok ang 40K. Kapag 40,000 pesos exactly under Article 9, it's a light felony. Pero under Article 26, it's a correctional penalty. So how do we reconcile them? If the issue involves the prescription of the crime, that felony will be considered a light felony. But if the issue involves prescription of penalty, the fine of 40,000 pesos will be considered correctional and it will prescribe within 10 years. Ito yung Article 90, Prescription of Crimes, at ito yung Article 92, Prescription of Penalties. Ito kasi, the law does not look upon with favor implied repeals. Kasi pag titignan ninyo, they are in direct collision with one another. Instead of one repealing the other, the law will find a way to harmonize the two. At eto na nga, kapag Article 9 ang pinapag-usapan, it relates to prescription of the crime. At kapag Article 26 naman, it has something to do with prescription of the penalty. Let's provide an example. Example number 1. On January 1, 2020, A committed a crime for violation of a law penalized by a fine of
40,000 pesos.
When will the crime prescribe? The question has something to do with prescription of crime. Prescription of crime. The answer is Articles 9 in relation to Article 90. Sa Article 9, it's a light felony. And under Article 90, light felonies shall prescribe in 2 months. Ito, light offenses prescribe in 2 months. How about this number 2 question? A was convicted and he could not pay the fine of
40,000 pesos.
So na-convict na siya. Meron ng final judgment and then he was made to serve the subsidiary imprisonment kasi nga hindi niya mabayaran yung fine na
40,000 pesos.
siguro kasi lockdown. And while serving, he escaped. When will the penalty prescribe? Now the question here has something to do with prescription of penalties. At ang i-apply na natin ngayon ay, gaya ng sabi natin kanina, Articles 26 and 92. Under Article 26, a fine of
40,000 pesos
is a correctional penalty. And pursuant to Article 92, which is the relevant article dealing with prescription of penalties, a correctional penalty prescribes in 10 years. The answer in number 2 therefore is 10 years. The penalty will prescribe in 10 years. That's it. Once again, thank you for listening. I appreciate your time and good luck po sa studies ninyo.